Good morning. Our conference title, our conference theme, we discussed for a great deal, spent a great deal of time talking about that. Redefining reentry beyond restoration. I guess at the end of the day, what we're wanting to do is to ask if it's working. What can we do better? What are the challenges that lie ahead for us? Reentry or reintegration has been a focus in corrections way back to the 1700s. It's kind of, we've come a long way. In the 1700s, they believed that isolation and hard labor were the things that caused a person to change. They needed those things for reform. So in other words, in order to go home and be successful, they subject you to isolation and hard labor. That's what they believed worked in the 1700s. In the 1800s, corrections took another advance and realized for the first time that adults and juveniles should be treated differently. And so they started offering juvenile treatment programs. In the 1930s, the focus of corrections shifted to rehabilitation. That was their primary focus. And then in the 60s, we shifted again in corrections, and they added vocational and educational programs. We've come a long way from the 1700s. Today, we have the State Attorney General's office here. Think about that for just a minute. The chief law enforcement agency in the state, whose job it is to investigate crime and lock up bad guys, is here. Not only here, but one of their chief deputies is in charge of PARC. Think about that. We've come a long way. Department of Corrections is here. They have a whole department devoted to community corrections and reentry, and they spend thousands upon thousands of dollars just working with reentry. We're doing a lot of things in 2024 that just like 20 years ago wouldn't even be believable. Parole officers devoted to reentry. The fact that PARC even exists is remarkable. Many, but not all counties have reentry specialists in their county facilities that just do work with reentry. They connect inmates to housing and resources. Center County, we have the best, Vanessa Village. She's knocking it out of the park. She's doing amazing things. We've come a long way. We have Kurt, my friend back there, tomorrow's neighbor, who spent 24 years incarcerated. Kurt's home and has an organization called Tomorrow's Neighbor, and he's offering valuable resources to those returning from incarceration, and he's giving them hope. We've come a long way. Organizations like Centerpiece in Center County, they exist and they provide training for inmates that are incarcerated in the county jail. They provide vocational training, and then they take a day a week and they do life skills training. It's amazing the services that we have to offer in 2024. The huge turnout today reflects what great interest there is in reentry. We have a lot to celebrate. And when I asked my 15-year-old daughter if it was appropriate that we clap for ourselves, as other people have, she said, "Dad, don't do that. That's corny." So I won't ask you to applaud for yourselves or give yourselves a hand, but the fact is, we've come a long way, and we're doing a lot of great things. There's reason to celebrate. There's reason to be happy, right? So, with all those great things that are happening, I want to ask the question. Is it working? The fact remains that 10 out of 10 inmates leaving any facility across the state, 10 out of 10, when they leave today, they say, "I swear to God, I'm never coming back. This place sucks. The food sucks. The guards suck. Everything about it sucks. And I'm never coming back. This is it. I'm never, ever coming back." 10 out of 10 will say that. 10 out of 10. Within 3 years, 64% are back behind bars. Are we happy with a 36% success rate? I have a 15-year-old daughter who, if she came home from school with a report card that reflected she was only succeeding 36% of the time, I'd be livid. I'd be looking for ways to improve her grades. I'd be looking for ways to improve that situation. I personally had a goal for the longest time it would be cool to be responsible or be one of those responsible for lowering the recidivism rate just a few points. Wouldn't that be cool? Just to say I had a part of that. I had a part to play, right? I was cutting grass last summer and I had a come to Jesus moment. I really, really did. I was thinking about GoReentry, and GoReentry is the organization I founded and started. So our goal is to help people go home, stay home, and be successful. That's what we do. That's what we're all about. And so I'm thinking and I'm strategizing. I'm thinking, like, God, what do you want us to do next? What should be our plans in the future? And I'm thinking about that, and I'm thinking about that. And I got convicted. I don't know if that's the right word, but I did. I started thinking about the recidivism rate, and I thought to myself, Mark, your goal should be to reduce the recidivism rate altogether, not just 1 or 2 points. And I know you're all laughing in your breath, inside laughing and saying, this guy's an idiot. That's never going to happen. That's foolish. Well, I don't think so. I think it should be our goal. I want to talk a little bit about reentry, the definition, and how I was introduced to it for just a minute. Reentry for me, or the concept of reentry for me, was never on my radar. You would think that it would have been. I spent many years in law enforcement, and I worked for Department of Corrections for several years. But I was never really I never understood the concept of reentry. The whole concept of reentry was introduced to me 21 years ago. You see, I screwed up and I made a mistake, and I found myself sitting in a county jail. To say I was at life's bottom would be an understatement. But Sergeant Ray there introduced me to reentry. We were standing at a door getting ready to go in the rec area. I'll never forget it. Sergeant Ray was a big man. I mean, he was so big that he couldn't keep his shirt tucked in. He was a big man. His white shirt was always covered with brown stains from coffee or tobacco juice. Corners of his mouth always had a brown crust on them from the tobacco that he's been chewing. He never shaved. And without sounding judgmental, and God forgive me, and I'm asking you to forgive me, but Sergeant Ray was just a slob. But he took great pleasure in introducing me to reentry. His words sucked every bit of dignity and self-worth and hopes of a brighter tomorrow right out of me. He said, Frailey, you'll be back. Everyone comes back. Once you're in the system, you'll always be in the system. I call that job security. And then he had this little grin on his face. The reality that his words may be true were devastating to me. I was crushed. Maybe what he's saying is true. And you're saying, well, that happened 21 years ago. That's not what people believe today. Well, less than 2 years ago, while I was picking up an inmate at a county facility, we were walking to the car, and a corrections professional was kind enough to say goodbye by saying, you'll be back. We'll leave the lights on for you. So I'm hoping today that that's not our goal. That's not our definition of reentry. one thing I've learned in my work doing reentry for the past many years is there's a great divide. There's a great divide in what the Department of Corrections is doing with reentry and what counties are doing with reentry. When preparing for my remarks, it didn't take me long that the DOC is just knocking it out of the park. They can do some things better, but they've made some great strides in reentry. I'm disappointed to report that when talking about county facilities, many are falling way short when it comes to reentry efforts. Many don't have any reentry efforts at all. I've heard many reentry experts say that reentry should start at the time of the initial booking into a facility, and I agree. So when a person's being booked in, reentry should actually be on the person's mind. I think when those experts are talking, though, they're talking about programs and planning, right? As soon as the person's booked in. So I believe that, but I also believe that reentry should start when a person's booked in, but I want to focus it on to, I think recidivism finds its roots in the way an inmate's treated when they're incarcerated. It's been my experience that most men and women behind bars they have no hope of a brighter tomorrow. I'm reminded of men and women who go to the military, and I've never served in the military, but I understand that when you go to boot camp, it's the drill sergeant's job to tear you down, make you a nobody, and then he builds you back up, or she builds you back up the way they want you to be. I think the same thing happens when someone goes to jail. I think it just happens. I don't think it's intentional, but I think it just happens. You lose your identity, your education doesn't matter, your professional experience doesn't matter, all the positive things in your life are taken away from you, you're given a number, you're called by your last name, your self-esteem and self-confidence are robbed from you. But the problem is they're never given back. Without self-confidence and self-esteem, successful reentry, in my mind, is almost impossible, and it's not likely. I've struggled whether to share any of these observations with you today. I've prayed, I've rewritten, I've torn scripts up, I've done it all. I've spent way too much time preparing for this today. I want to be careful not to offend anybody, because as I look in the room, y'all are doing great work in reentry, so please don't let me offend you. But the fact remains that we have to do better when it comes to the quality of individuals working in our correction system if we want to impact reentry going forward. We need to focus on quality correction professionals. Let's be clear. I know that the issue now is not on quality, it's on quantity. We can't find enough officers to work our shifts. And here I am saying, well, we should worry about quality. Corrections are hired to force less than ideal candidates, to fill positions. But I think as we move forward in reentry, if we're really to get to the roots of it, we need to start when a person's booked in with all the programs and with all the rest, but we need quality people that are supervising them along the way. I'm excited to be here today, about the people here today. You know what makes me excited about Rob and Kelly and Charla? They believe in what they're doing. These past many years when I've done reentry work, I've been in rooms with people who think that you should lock a person up and throw away the key, yet they're participating in a reentry coalition meeting. They're there because their job description or their boss says, you need to go and sit on this committee. No, thank you. Stay home. We don't want you. We need quality people who believe that somebody can go home from jail and be successful. It's a challenge. Another major challenge that anyone working in reentry knows about is working with men and women who are forced to register. There's such a stigma associated with those who have committed sex offenses. The stigma started 30 years ago on a TV show when a guest on the show said that sex offenders had a real high risk of reoffending. In fact, they probably were going to reoffend. And that started it. The fake news was instrumental in the issues we're faced today as we help sex offenders go home. Truth is, according to a DOC recidivism report in 2022, parolees who've committed sex offenses have the lowest rearrest rate. In 2021, a U.S. Sentencing Commission published a report that followed 32,140 federal prisoners who have committed sex crimes. They followed them for about 10 years. Of those 32,145, only 80 committed other sex offenses. That's 0.02%. The stigma is real, and it's created huge issues for men and women who reenter as they attempt to reenter their community. I have calls weekly asking me to help a sex offender find housing or employment. I have personal experience working with 3 individuals who were forced to register as sex offenders when they should have no business registering at all. They've served their time, they've paid their debt, they're no risk to reoffend, making them register as trafficked. They're given unrealistic restrictions and expectations. Living life for them is hell every day. Moving forward, I think we, all of us in the room, have to take on the stigma associated with sex offenders. In closing, I just want to get one more key that this gentleman did a much finer job than me. I chair the Restorative Justice Subcommittee, and you'll be shocked for me to say I don't think the restorative justice is a good word or a good term. I get it when we're talking about victims. I don't understand it when we're talking about people who have been convicted or are sent to jail. Okay? I have a friend who restores cars. He'll take a 1967 Corvette and restore it to its original condition. We don't need that in reentry. To use that same analogy, we need better engines, better tires, better upholstery, better carburetors when we talk about restoring people's lives. We can't send them back to the same street corner. We can't send them back to the same conditions. Reentry. Thank you all for what you do in reentry. I hope that maybe that I motivated you a little bit, that we need to do better. We can do better. And if we're going to solve the problem, look around in the room, and it's this group right here that's going to do that. Thank you.
Oh, man. Everybody hear me okay? Yes? Clap one time. You hear me? See signs? Hear me? Huh? All right, thank you. What's up, Kurt? All right, so I have until 9:35. What time is it?
9:35.
Thanks, Mark.
You're welcome, man.
Hey, Tamara. Just let me collect myself real quick because I had a whole lot to say. So redefining reentry. I'm Eric VanZant. I'm somebody that has, in so many ways, redefined the term reentry. Because like we talk about, reentry looks like a guy who's going to go back. 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10, depending on where you are, you're going to go back to prison or the county jail. So for some reason, you're going to go back to prison. So when I think about redefining reentry, I think about when I was in prison and ready to walk out of prison in July 2019, and I had in my mind, man, I can't fail, because I'm someone who is a juvenile lifer, and there were so many lifers in prison that were talking about what it looks like for folks to get out of prison, and now have so many people counting on them. The optics, the reputations, everything that we think about when we walk out and say, man, you gotta represent us because you're speaking for us. Whether you're actually talking or just through your actions, you represent us. You are our ambassador. So come on, man, you can't fail us. And so now I walk out And what do? I got all kinds of anxiety because I spent 31 years in prison. That's a long time. So I'm 31 years behind, and when I walked out or walked into prison, I was a kid. So walking out, what do you restore me to? What am I restored to? Now I'm not a teenager, now I'm a grown man. If you're walking out of prison, you're talking about, I'm a grown-ass man, dog. That's really what you are. So I have a really different feeling when I walk out. I'm a grown-ass man. Not really. Because as a reentrant, I'm disenfranchised. I'm so used to being commodified that the commodification of me as a man is real. I don't even experience, in a way that I understand it, my own sense of self-agency in society. I got anxiety. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing when I'm going to pump gas. They got the barcodes at the Target. I never use the barcode, a QR code. And somebody's showing me like I'm a child. And I'm a man. And I'm conflicted. Because of all this that I'm going through. And I want to say, hey man, don't show me that. I can do it. But I can't. I can't realistically do it. Because I need the help. But as a man, as a grown-up, man, the conflict that you're going through, the thoughts, I can't fail. But every day something's set up and designed for me to display or put on display about how I'm incompetent or inadequate in some kind of way that I'm going to fail. And man, it's tight. That is tension. That is anxiety that you just can't really appreciate because you just don't have the skills. You don't have the understanding and appreciation for what's going on in society like everybody else does. I can put some clothes on and sit there with Jim and Rob and shit, and man, do I know that? Nah, I don't know what they know. But you look like you do. And somebody's counting on you, say, hey man, you know what you're doing, right? Like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. Now, I do know what I'm doing. But the thing is that when you walk out, man, you better look the part, because if you don't, they're going to know it, and you're going to think that everybody's looking at you anyway. Because of the stigma that's attached to you, because you're on parole. Or you're on probation. I'm standing right here in front of you right now, and I'm on parole. I got to pay $30 a month in fees to talk to you about what it's like to be a reentry. What? It's real. And so I just want you to know what somebody's going through in a little bit of time that I can really express it to you, because this is not really something that I can encapsulate in 7-8 minutes. I work for an organization now, the Reform Alliance. I'm a state advocate. I'm a state organizer. And I work in an advocacy space for probation reform legislation. Last year, we got Senate Bill 838 across the line. Governor Shapiro signed it into law in December. What do we do that we can affect? How many people can we affect? Let's change the law. So far, we changed 18 bills in 11 states. We got them passed. We're moving the needle. We're affecting as many people as possible, creating pathways to freedom, real freedom, out of the system. Out of the system. Because that's where you need to be. You need to be out of the system. I'm not free. I'm still in the system. As I go through, July will be 6 years that I've been back in society. And as I've went through this journey, this evolution as a reentrant, I can say, yeah, I'm successful. Right? I'm standing in front of you, we're talking, my bills are paid, I'm ready to get married. Things are good, man. My motorcycle's running. Feel good. You know what I mean, Mark? It's a little cold out the road up here. But I mean, for me, it went from I can't fail to the redefining of that when I gained my agency and I got my foothold and I started moving in a way that I was confident. I knew how to read the barcode. I just told my man, yo, use my Blink card on my phone. He said, what? I said, yeah, man, it's technology. I'm not handing out paper cards, man. We're not doing that. It's a new age. So I redefined my own definition of I can't fail to I can't fail. I can't fail, man. I'm nice. I found my step. I got you, bro. I'm ready. But that's the thing that when I think about a reentrant, what Kurt's doing, what Shane's doing, what everybody's doing out here in this reentry space and being successful. No, it isn't about the 36% being successful. It's about more than that. You might not see them. But we can't use the recidivism rate as a determinant to say whether or not something's working. Because there's so many proactive things that we do, like Tomorrow's Neighbors and different organizations like ACAR out in Allegheny County. There's things that people are doing that move the needle that is a different needle. We can't use that as the standard, the only standard. Reach one, teach one. Talk to somebody, grab one. Leanne does the work. We're all doing the work. Hey, Michelle, I see you back there. I know these people in the room. We do the work. Do what you can to make sure that somebody can turn that I can't fail into I can't fail. Do whatever you can in your coalition. And we're going to talk later on when we got some more time. Thank you.